Sophia had always believed she was a woman in control. She prided herself on her independence, her careful planning, and the illusion of perfection that surrounded her life. She had a marriage that many would call ideal. Daniel, her husband of 12 years, was reliable, calm, and dedicated. He worked as a financial consultant, never late without reason, and always returned home with a sense of quiet discipline. Their home, a beautiful apartment in a quiet neighborhood, had been meticulously decorated with neutral colors and minimalistic furniture, reflecting Sophia's own personality, calm, precise, and orderly. Friends admired her taste and the apparent stability of her marriage, and her family often praised her judgment, unaware of the small doubts that had begun to stir inside her mind. At first, the doubts were almost imperceptible. Daniel never shouted. He never raised his voice. He never gave her a reason to question his loyalty or his love. He was polite, kind, and seemingly perfect in every way. Yet, the very perfection began to unsettle Sophia. She could not shake the feeling that his composure hid something, that his unwavering calm was a mask waiting to crack. She remembered the divorce of her parents, the secret life her father had led behind her mother's back, and the profound hurt that had shaped her childhood. She had learned early that appearances were deceiving and that trust, if not tested, was fragile and unreliable. The seed of doubt grew quietly, nurtured by memories and fears she had long buried. She began noticing small details. Daniel's polite compliments to female colleagues, his occasional lingering gaze at someone he passed on the street, the way he seemed to enjoy moments of attention without overstepping boundaries. Each observation became a question in her mind. Was he too controlled? Was he hiding a desire that he never revealed? Could a man truly be faithful for 12 years without testing the waters elsewhere? The questions multiplied until she could no longer ignore them. One afternoon, she met her best friend, Emily, at a small cafe in town. She spilled her anxieties over coffee, speaking in hushed tones as if the world might overhear and judge her thoughts. "He's too perfect," Sophia said, tracing the rim of her cup with a finger. "No man can be that loyal for 12 years. Emily frowned, studying her friend's face. "Or maybe he just loves you," she replied. "That's what scares me," Sophia admitted. "Because if I'm wrong, I've been living a lie. And if I'm right, then what?" Emily hesitated. "What are you planning to do?" Sophia's gaze dropped to the table. "I need to test him. To see who he really is when no one is watching." Emily's brow furrowed. Some tests destroy what they're supposed to protect. Sophia ignored the warning. She convinced herself that she was rational, that she was acting out of a desire for clarity, for peace of mind. If Daniel passed, she could finally relax and trust him completely. If he failed, she would save herself years of potential betrayal. What began as a small doubt soon transformed into an obsession, and she began planning a way to uncover the truth. Within days, she had devised a plan. She contacted Clara, a professional with experience in psychological and social experiments. Clara was attractive, intelligent, and trained to manipulate situations in ways that seemed natural. Sophia's instructions were precise. Get close to Daniel, engage him in conversation, flirt subtly, and create opportunities for temptation. Document everything. Leave no doubt about his choices. Sophia assured herself that this was not deception, it was merely a method to measure the strength of Daniel's fidelity. The first encounter took place at a networking event for local businesses. Clara introduced herself as a consultant from another firm, professional and polite, with a charm that made Daniel feel comfortable. They exchanged contacts, their conversation remaining strictly professional. Yet, over the following days, Sophia received updates from Clara. Small messages about interactions, fleeting glances, and casual compliments exchanged during meetings. At first, Sophia felt relief. Daniel was polite, distant, and seemingly untouchable. He had not given any indication of weakness. But as days turned into weeks, the messages shifted. Clara described moments of shared laughter, Subtle touches that lingered slightly longer than expected, and personal questions that Daniel had answered with honesty but with a warmth that Sophia found unsettling. Every word she read twisted her emotions. She had expected either proof of betrayal or affirmation of loyalty, yet each small interaction left her feeling simultaneously terrified and elated. Sophia's obsession grew. She scrutinized every text, every email, every minor detail of Daniel's day. The more she observed, the more she wanted to know. She encouraged Clara to escalate, to push boundaries, and to create situations where Daniel's decisions would be tested more explicitly. Daniel agreed to meet Clara alone for coffee, then for dinner, in controlled, public settings, where nothing improper occurred but where subtle temptations were introduced. The night of the dinner, Sophia sat in her apartment, phone in hand, staring at the screen with a mixture of anxiety and anticipation. She imagined every possible outcome. What would it mean if he failed? What would it mean if he resisted? Could she survive the truth either way? The video came later, and Sophia watched it with trembling hands. Daniel and Clara sat across from each other in a quiet restaurant, speaking, laughing, enjoying each other's company. Nothing physical, nothing improper, but Daniel's relaxed demeanor, his attentiveness to Clara's words, and the ease with which he navigated the social dance sent a pang through Sophia's heart. He had resisted the temptation, but in doing so, he revealed something uncomfortable. He was capable of warmth, charm, and subtle engagement outside their marriage. Sophia's carefully constructed illusion of control began to crumble. She continued to push Clara to escalate the experiment, each encounter more intense, more nuanced, more psychologically demanding. Clara would lean in, speak intimately, and create situations that tested Daniel's discretion. And Daniel, true to his nature, resisted. He maintained politeness, boundaries, and integrity throughout. Yet Sophia watched, increasingly unable to separate relief from guilt, victory from self-reproach. Weeks later, she finally confronted Daniel with the truth. She revealed the entire plan. The payments to Clara, the recordings, the staged interactions. She expected rage, shouting, a collapse of the fragile facade of their marriage. Instead, she was met with a silence that felt heavier than any words could be. Daniel's calm expression, his quiet resignation, cut deeper than any anger ever could. "You did it because you didn't trust me," he said simply. His voice was low, firm, and devoid of anger. He left that night, and therapy, distance, and silence followed. Sophia's life became a quiet struggle against guilt. Daniel moved on, remarried, and built a life filled with love and laughter, holding a young daughter in his arms, free from the shadows of past betrayals. Sophia remained alone, surrounded by her thoughts and her regrets. Her work at a counseling center became her refuge. She helped women navigate fear and trust in relationships, repeatedly emphasizing one lesson she had learned too late: never test the one you love. Test the fear inside yourself instead. She became a guide, a mentor, a reflection for others who struggled with the same doubts that had nearly destroyed her own life. Years later, Sophia would walk past the park where she had once observed Daniel and his daughter, a vision of joy and trust. She did not approach. She did not wave. She simply watched, understanding that some lives heal regardless of how deeply they are hurt, and that some lessons are learned only through personal ruin. Sophia learned to write again, to reflect, and to live with clarity. Her gray-streaked hair and quiet apartment became symbols not of failure but of survival, of lessons carved painfully into her life. She finally grasped the central truth of her existence. Love cannot be proven, trust cannot be manufactured. Both must be chosen, nurtured, and respected. She understood that the woman who had tested her husband and destroyed her own life had begun a new journey, not one of vengeance or reclamation, but of honesty, introspection, and the courage to live differently. The mistakes of the past remained, indelible, but in facing them, she discovered a measure of peace, a lesson of humility, and a freedom she had never known. Love, she realized, was not a test. It was a choice. And the choice to live honestly, to forgive oneself, and to let go of fear could reshape a life even after irreparable damage.